it's a very daunting, tasking, labor-intensive
Mm-hmm.
field that, right there and then at CIA, at Michelin-starred restaurants, they'll test you to see if you can make it or not. And it's also a good
Mm-hmm.
test for you on if this is something you really want to do. Because there they set the standard. CIA, Michelin-starred restaurants, like they set the standard for where and how you should be working. So it's up to you and the person working at that restaurant, like, or going to the school on, is this really for me? And once I stepped into that environment and I felt the pressure and the heat and like the discipline, I was like, yeah, like this is for me. Like this is what I want. I like the structure. I like, you know, the being able to create and have fun, but still having structure and discipline to it.
And the conversation continues. Illustrado Talks is the continuation of our advocacy. We started with Illustrado magazine, and that is to empower, celebrate, and uplift Filipinos from around the world. Let this be my personal invitation for you to think bigger, lead boldly, and build forward. And today I'm super, super excited because we've got a brilliant young Filipino in the show. Welcome to Joaquin Cariaso. Joaquin, hello.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, New York.
Good morning, New York. Good evening, Dubai.
Yes, exactly. So let's give our audience some context. So if you haven't seen Next Gen Chef yet on Netflix, guys, you really have to watch. Joaquin is a Filipino American chef who rose to prominence as one of the breakout stars of this reality cooking show or chef show, I would say. And Joaquin is a semi-finalist there in the show, and we totally disagree because we feel like he should have been in the finals. Joaquin, I'm going to totally fight for that, right?
Thank you.
And yeah, apart from the show, Joaquin is also a sous chef at this rising New York restaurant called Manhattan. And I understand that you guys are working towards earning your first Michelin star. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
But
Michelin, come on.
definitely. But, beyond the accolades, Joaquin, what got us interested in telling your story is that when we saw you there as a young Filipino who's so talented, we felt like you could share something about confidence, having pride in your roots, and at the same time owning your place in the world to all those other young Filipinos out there. So I think let's get started with how did you even get into this kind of into this kind of occupation? What made you want to be a chef?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it started at a young age. Like growing up Filipino American, there's this kind of stigma that every time you walk into a Filipino household in the US, the first question that you get asked when you walk in is, "Did you eat yet?" I think the like Filipinos have been very
Mm-hmm.
known for their hospitality. So I think hospitality and feeding people and like cooking food for people has kind of just been instilled in me at a young age. So seeing that, with family friends coming over or my friends coming over from school and seeing my mom uh being like, "Hey, did you guys eat yet?" Being the first thing that they asked, kind of I think set the basis and the roots for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then as a kid, I didn't want to watch like the regular Disney Channel or Nickelodeon. Like I wanted to watch Food Network. I wanted to watch
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Bourdain cook. I wanted to watch Gordon Ramsay. I
Amazing.
wanted to
Mm-hmm.
watch, Guy Fieri, Bobby Flay. Like there was just something about the heat and the rush of being in a kitchen and just like being to taste different foods. I think that's really what started like me wanting to become a chef. And then asking my mom, "Hey, can we go to the grocery store? I saw this ingredient on TV. Like, I want to try it. Like, can we go to the store?" So I think kind of getting introduced to new ingredients and, tasting new things really kickstarted my want to pursue cooking.
How do you see cooking, Joaquin? Because some people say that it's like an art, some people say that it's like alchemy, for other people, it's like play. What's the Joaquin Cariazo take on cooking?
I think cooking in its for me it's an art form the same way that a canvas is a platform for an artist or painter to create the dish and the ingredients is our platform and canvas to create art. but it's also a sense of nourishment because we all need to eat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, it's also an experience. Like the best memories and best events that have happened in my life were all centered around food at one point in the time.
What was there one definitive food experience that you had growing up that made you think, I'm gonna be a chef? I'm gonna cook something like that. Was there ever something like that?
I don't think there was one defining moment where I was out eating and I was like, I wanted to become a chef, but I think it was my parents' openness to wanting to go try out new restaurants that I've been asking them to go try, new cuisines that I've been wanting to go try, and like them being like, okay, yeah, like let's try that. That sounds fun. And just like the small increments of going to new places, trying new stuff, all kind of like, if I can do this as a career, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That sounds very good, and I love the way that you've connected it to Filipino hospitality, which comes so naturally to us. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and you graduated from what is called the Harvard of, culinary institutes in America, the CIA, or the Culinary Institute of America. You trained in a Michelin-starred restaurant as well. How was that for you? I mean, it must have been very competitive. And how did that shape your future moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, CIA in itself has a history of being very competitive. You know, any of the greatest chefs in the US back in the 70s, 80s, 90s have all graduated from CIA. I went to a high school where they actually offered culinary as a class. So
Mm-hmm.
I was already taking culinary classes in high school, and my chef in high school was a graduate from CIA. So early on in high school, I was already kind of being told like if you want to be really become a great chef, you have to go to CIA. So that's really where that started. But then going to CIA, working at a Michelin-starred restaurant, their biggest things there are discipline and like setting the foundation and basis to how you do well in this career. It's a very daunting, tasking, labor-intensive
Mm-hmm.
field that, right there and then at CIA, at Michelin-starred restaurants, they'll test you to see if you can make it or not. And it's also a good
Mm-hmm.
test for you on if this is something you really want to do. Because there they set the standard. CIA, Michelin-starred restaurants, like they set the standard for where and how you should be working. So it's up to you and the person working at that restaurant, like, or going to the school on, is this really for me? And once I stepped into that environment and I felt the pressure and the heat and like the discipline, I was like, yeah, like this is for me. Like this is what I want. I like the structure. I like, the being able to create and have fun, but still having structure and discipline to it.
Yeah, and you graduated with honors, I understand, right? I mean,
I did, yeah.
because for me, just thinking about your past, your history like that, it almost signifies how competitive you are. Am I right
Yeah.
in seeing
Yeah.
that? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah. I
think
mean,
anybody, yeah, nobody
I
would
I
just
grew
go
up
into that, yeah, into that
I grew
situation
up
without
playing
the, yeah.
I grew up playing a lot of sports.
I
Uh
see. Okay.
m- I grew up playing a lot of sports, so like that competitive drive kind of already was in me. You can ask my girlfriend. I'm a very big sore loser. Anytime we
Mhm.
play board games, if I lose, I'm like, no, we have to go again."
Oh, really?
But
You look,
no,
Joaquin, you look like a sweet guy.
I am. But once I'm losing in a
Don't
game, it's
believe this. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not fun. No, but no, yeah, I played sports very
yeah.
early on, so that like competitiveness started very, very early. So then that really just kind of carried on in cooking.
I like that, discipline and competitiveness in sports translates to being a chef and cooking and, studying in the best university in America there is for this kind of a job. Now, being on Next Chef, how was that? How did you get in there? How was the experience like? Tell us all about it.
So it was a weird process getting there. You know, I was originally reached out just by an Instagram DM. And
Oh,
we get those weird Instagram requests all the time in our
yeah,
DMs, like, oh, like this is real, this is just an ad,
yeah.
it's a bot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, no, this sounds fake. Like, I don't think this is real. So I just completely ignored it. I'm like, oh yeah, 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 TV show, ha ha ha. I passed by it, and maybe like 6 months go by, and I get a text from one of the higher ups from CIA, because I did a lot of marketing, and I worked with the marketing team at CIA, so I was still very much involved with some of the employers of CIA even after I had
Mm-hmm.
left. And one of them had reached out to me and texted me saying, "Hey, Joaquin, like I hope you're doing well. Um, just so you know, like I don't know if you've heard, but we're Netflix is casting for this cooking show, and it's apparently being held at CIA." And I'm like, does this have to do with this Miss Instagram DM that I got 6 months ago? He's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So they did reach out to you. And like, he was like, oh, it's this company. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's exactly who it was. I'm like, okay, so if he's telling me this is legit, then maybe this is a little bit, no, it's not what I thought it was. So 6 months later, I messaged the person back. I'm like, hey, I hope the offer is still off the table. I'm still
Yeah.
interested if it's still available. Like, I just kind of want to hear what it's all about. So the casting person was very nice. They set me up on a call, kind of gave me the rundown. And I was like, okay, like this seems very fun. Like I'm very excited for this. The idea of having young chefs compete
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in one competition was great, because I've only ever known competition shows with like chefs who are already, executive
Very
chefs or
seasoned. Yeah.
restaurant owner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seasoned. They've already very accomplished. I'm like, oh, this is a great idea of having chefs who are like up and coming, still working hard to get to those chefs levels, but then us competing. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, because I very much fit in that. I'm like, okay. So they continue with a few different calls after that to kind of feel me out if I think I would be a good fit for it. Um, and long story short, I end up getting the spot in the competition, and I have to take. They're like, oh, it's going to be like a month and a half off. I'm like, okay, so I have to
Mm-hmm.
take off of work for a month and a half, and so then I get onto the train. Someone sends me a train ticket. They're like, leave at Grand Central in New York City. I'll leave at Penn Station, New York City at 7 a.m. and you'll be up at CIA 2 hours later. I'm like, okay. I've never met anyone. All I have are email receipts and Instagram DMs.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this could either go really well, or I'm setting myself up to get kidnapped. We're
Yeah.
gonna find out.
Just like that.
Uh, so I'm like, all right, let's find out. Um, so I head up and I meet with a bunch of the people that I've been in emailing with and talking with, and then we start filming. And I get to meet 20 other great young chefs all around America, from different backgrounds, from you know fine dining chefs like me to you know cooks, people who are still cooks, to private chefs
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
celebrities. So it's a very wide array of type of chefs on the show. So it's very cool to see how everyone kind of got to where they are. Um,
And
and yeah, it was.
next thing you know,
And
you're on Netflix.
and the next thing I know, we're filming for 18 hours, and yeah, just nonstop cooking. But it
I
was a lot of fun.
it looked like, really a pressurized environment. What was the toughest part of that? Is it close to real life, or is it even harder in the competition?
I don't think it's close to real life, because in real life in a kitchen, you have 8, 9, 10 hours to prep and get ready, and you have all of your equipment, you have your staff, you have all your ingredients, you have all your tools. And filming on the show, you have the kitchen, like the one kitchen that we're filming in that day. We have our knives, our tools, and that's it. Like in the restaurant, we're used to the ovens. We know which one works well, which one doesn't
Mm-hmm.
well. We
Mm-hmm.
know which stove works well. We know which pot, is the best fit for the sauce. Where this one, it's ovens a lot of the people have never used before. I mean, I've used the ovens obviously because I was an alumni there, but it was ovens that some people never used before. It was stove spaces they've never used before, kitchen counters that they've never, haven't gotten accumulated with yet. So it's not the same as working in a real kitchen, because that environment. But the pressure. was definitely still there. I think that, and honestly, I think the pressure was higher because it's, something I would do in like 5 hours for prep.
Mm-hmm.
I now have an hour and a half, 2 hours to do.
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, like I have to kick into overdrive now, overdrive now and work at 2 times the speed that I would be. Um, so the pressure is definitely there. Plus, then you have you're knowing you're cooking for Kelsey Bernard Clark, you're cooking for Carlton McCoy, Olivia
Mm-hmm.
Culpo. Then you have, they come up to you, hey, by the way, Danielle Boulut's coming in, Kwame is coming in. You're cooking for Thomas Keller, you're cooking for Anne Burrell. And I'm like, these aren't just normal people that you cook for every day. Like these
Yeah.
people have a name for themselves. Like if I get them sick, I'm screwed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's like there is definitely a lot more pressure that goes in, and even watching the show, you can really see that. I think if you were to see us in episode one and how we physically look, and then
Mm-hmm.
go to the last episode and then see us, we have bags under our eyes, our hair is grown out, we're like barely struggling to keep our eyes open. So I think it's cool to see that progression. But yeah, the pressure and the constant, I mean, it was stressful. I definitely lost 10 years of my life just filming the show, but it was worth it.
It was worth
Um,
it. And by the
it
way,
definitely was.
one of the best things that we love about that show is that you really stood out for leadership. I think you were amongst the first leaders that were picked out in the show, and we were like, wow, Joaquin
Yeah,
Cariaso being a leader there. How was that for you? Leadership
it was
skills is
good.
super important. Yeah.
It is. I mean, in any industry, leadership skills are important. I mean, it was important to me to set my footing as someone who can cook, but then who could also knows how to lead a team. I mean, while I was filming this show, I was already a sous chef, and in a kitchen, a sous chef is already a leader. Like you've already done your years of cooking, now you're leading a team, you're teaching them, you're guiding them through service and prep and learning as a cook, but then as a sous chef, now you're the one leading. So I think I've already had a couple of years of leading a team in New York City kind of already under my belt. Where, compared to other people who were private chefs or cooks, they don't really lead a team. They lead themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a
Mm-hmm.
cook in a restaurant, you lead yourself to make sure all of your mise en place, all of your prep is done for service, and then you execute service. As a private chef, you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you have your prep done for the family or your client to make sure that everything's done. But as a sous chef now, you're leading the team. So I think it definitely helped being a leader, being a sous chef already, because that kind of already transcribed. I mean, in the first episode, they were like, okay, we're gonna split you up to Anthony
Yeah.
Bourdain, Julia Child, Paul Bocuse. And they
Mm-hmm.
put me in Paul Bocuse, and they're like, off camera, they're like, so who knows anything about Paul Bocuse? And I'm like, yeah, me. Hello, I went to the school. Yeah, I worked at the Bocuse restaurant at CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Like, okay, like tell, and the group in the kitchen with me, they're like, oh, so tell us about him. Like, okay, you know, fine dining, super French,
Mm-hmm.
have to be super innovative, but still kind of keeps to the classic, make sure the food tastes good, make sure food gets hot. And I think just from me knowing the food and kind of my confidence of like, okay, yeah, this is what Pablo Cus did, this is what we have to do. They're like, yeah, no, like you're the guy, like you're the
Yeah.
guy that's going to lead us because you already have, like, the vision of how this is supposed to go. And I'm not really scared to kind of step up as a leader, especially when I feel like I can already feel everyone's kind of doubting themselves. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I can step up and be the guy.
Yeah. I,
So having prior experience definitely helped.
Yeah. And I think you presented as very solid and very confident and efficient, and we love that. What was the best thing about this experience for you? I know that it was tough, a lot of pressure and all that, but what was the best thing about that experience?
I think the best thing from this experience was honestly the people that I met. I am very close with all of the other contestants, like regardless of how it all looks on Netflix or any drama that had happened on Netflix, like we are all very close. That kind of experience kind of trauma bonds you all together. Um, so I think, getting to get close with Andrew, meeting Sydney, London,
Mm-hmm.
Abby, Ilka, Nikki, like we all, especially like later down the line in the show, there's nothing like the friendships that you make in
Mm-hmm.
in that type of experience. Like, yeah, it was cool to cook for Danielle. It was cool to cook for all these three Michelin star chefs and these, entrepreneurs. And it's cool. It was cool cooking for them. But, at the end of the day, I don't get to call Danielle Ballou be like, hey, how was the food that day? Like, but I still get to talk to Andrew. I still get to talk to
Mm-hmm,
Sydney.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think really the best outcome was from the show was, getting to meet, these incredible young chefs.
We've seen some affinity for your affinity for Filipino food during the show. Can you tell us about, what inspires you in Filipino cooking, and does that filter through to your cooking? Do you, is there something that you can say
Yeah.
that you take from Filipino inspiration?
So I definitely try to take some bits and pieces here and there of Filipino cuisine. I'm not the type of chef or the type of guy to redefine what sinigang is. Like I don't
Mm-hmm,
want to
mm-hmm.
change what kare is. I don't want to change what sinigang is.
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
those are foods that I grew up eating that I don't want to change because to me they're perfect.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
so yeah, so like I very much love Filipino food. It's the food that I ate growing up. Like yeah, I grew up in America, but I still grew up eating, tosilog, spam silog. Like I still ate all of that growing up. Um, and so like Filipino cuisine in it actually especially in the US, I very much think it's on the rise and the up and up. I they didn't mention it on the show, but Filipino chef Dale Taldy was a guest
Mm-hmm,
judge
mm-hmm,
on
mm-hmm,
one of the episodes,
mm-hmm.
and they never mentioned it, but my first ever kitchen job in any restaurant was when I was 16 at Dale Taldy's restaurant. So
I
Dale was
see.
actually technically my first ever boss. So Dale and his executive chef were really the ones that started my career in kitchen. So
Mm-hmm.
they didn't put it on the show. It was actually a kind of wild moment, kind of being like filming the episode and then seeing Dale come out was kind of crazy because like we didn't know that he didn't know I was going to be there. I didn't know he was going to be there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it was like very full circle for both of us. And at Taldi, the restaurant that I worked for Dale,
Mm-hmm.
it was Filipino American, but it had other Asian influences in it. So I already kind of had Filipino food in my first ever kitchen job. Um, so I try to incorporate Filipino flavors as much as I can. I mean, I did the whole Filipino pork skewer on one of the
Yeah.
episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I try to take as much inspiration as I can. I just put a dish on the menu at Manhattan. It's not Filipino, but I took, the tropical flavors of coconut and chilies that we use a lot in the Philippines, and that was kind of like the basis of the dish, and then I kind of worked around that.
So you said that Filipino cuisine is on the rise, right? What do you
Yeah.
think people like you can do to contribute to the further prominence of Filipino cuisine around the world? Because I feel like we're still underrepresented, although there's growing awareness out there. What's your advice to other chefs out there? How can we actually elevate Filipino cooking, and put it more into the global spotlight?
I think it's being unapologetically ourselves in terms of the ingredients that we use, the flavor profiles. Like I see a lot of ube on menus in New York
Mm-hmm.
City and around the US. I see a lot of calamansi on the menu. Like I see a lot of, I was on Le Bernardin's Instagram and I saw like they're using calamansi one of their desserts. I'm like, okay, yeah, even high-end restaurants are starting to slowly incorporate Filipino ingredients. But I think being unapologetically ourselves in our flavor profiles and ingredients is the biggest thing to kind of really, you know, put an uptick in Filipino cuisine. You have restaurants in Chicago like Kasama that have a Michelin star, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
Filipino food.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like they're very unapologetically themselves. Their menu, when you read it, is all in Tagalog. Like the names of the dishes are in Tagalog. It's not in English, and they're using the proper ingredients. I genuinely believe that if we want to see a rise in Filipino food and Filipino culture in the food scene, we need to like really stay true to who we are. If something's supposed to be spicy, keep it spicy. If it's supposed to be acidic, keep it acidic. Don't tone down the flavor profiles to kind of match, what you think other
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
do. I mean, if you go to like an Indian restaurant or a Thai restaurant and you order a dish that it's going to be spicy, they're not going to tone down the spice because they're
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
proud of how spicy or how or what chilies that they're using. So I think we kind of need to to follow in that and be ourselves in the food, but then also being able to have fun with it.
And that's great advice. Be unapologetically who you are. I love that.
Yeah,
So you moved to the Philippines, sorry, to the US with your parents back when you were 2 years old, right? I understand.
correct. Yeah.
Um, how important is it for you to stay in touch with your roots?
It's very important. I mean, I one of my like biggest things is like remember your roots and like really keep, remembering where you come from because that's who made you into the person you are today.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, I was 2 years old when I moved to the US. I grew up in the US. I'm an American citizen. Like I am an American, right? I fully understand Tagalog. I speak it, but I speak it with an American accent.
mm-hmm,
Um, but I made it a point to make sure that I didn't forget how to understand Tagalog because it is, what kind of really ties me back home to the Philippines. I still very much consider Philippines home. I mean, someone asked me like, "Oh, where's home?" My first answer is the Philippines, not New Jersey.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, like they're like, okay, and then they'll be like, okay, so then where do you live? Then I say New Jersey. But for me, it's like, I still very much find it very important to keep in touch with what's going back home in the Philippines, what the food scene is like in the Philippines, especially. So yeah, it's very, very important to me to really remember where we come from.
What's your advice to young people who are sort of conflicted or about their identity or who are shy to come out there? Maybe they feel discriminated sometimes. What's the advice for being
Uh,
able to celebrate your Filipino ness?
I mean, I think I'll kind of go back to the statement I said before was to just be unapologetically yourself. Um, you know, growing up Filipino in the US, like, yeah, there was kind of, a few moments growing up where like, am I Filipino? Am I American? I wasn't American enough for, the Americans, but I wasn't Filipino enough for the
Mm-hmm,
Filipinos.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I'm sure, any Filipino in any other country outside of the Philippines very much has that dilemma. So I think for me, it was like the thing that helped me was to get involved with the community that I was in, kind of see how they do things. Like growing up in New Jersey, it's a very diverse, like I grew up in a
mm-hmm,
very diverse neighborhood. I think Jersey City was like one of the most diverse cities in the US. So being able, it helped growing up in a neighborhood in a city that, there was Indian immigrants, there was Polish immigrants, there
mm-hmm,
was,
mm-hmm.
African immigrants, and, Thai, Chinese, Filipino. So it was really this big melting pot of cultures that really, really helped me not stand out because there was people like me trying to do the same thing of trying to connect with their their place back home, but then connect with the city that they're living in. But if like for say if you're Filipino American and you grow up in a country that's, predominantly, American and with not much other culture, I
Mm-hmm,
think
mm-hmm.
it's important to connect yourself with the culture and environment that you're surrounded in, but to not forget, like you are Filipino. Even if you don't feel like you are, you are. Like, that's your heritage, that's your nationality, that's where you come from. Like, it is important to be proud of that.
Yeah, you have to be, connected to both worlds, right? Um,
Absolutely.
one of the best things that we admire about you, and I said that earlier, is your confidence. Being in a high pressure environment, leading, showing up with, being there, being very present. What's the advice to young people on how to acquire that kind of confidence? Were you always like this? I mean, is that something?
No.
Yeah.
It's years of just like time in the kitchen. And to answer your question, it's failure. It's being okay with failure
Mm-hmm.
because failure is what helps you grow. And then, learning from your failures and your mistakes is what helps you to become confident and to be able to lead people. For example, you know, the episode where I was cooking the skewers and I led, Andrew, London, and Sydney, and we were making skewers. Everyone was like, "Oh, like you seemed, you're a strong leader there. Like you're so confident with how you're doing it." And I'm like, I'm leading a private chef for the New York Jets, a sous chef at a three Michelin star restaurant per se,
Mm-hmm.
and an
Mm-hmm.
incredibly talented chef from New York City who's worked in Michelin star restaurants. Like I needed to be confident in that moment because I'm leading a high caliber group of individuals right now. But that comes from my years and time of failure of being a chef and like trying a method of leadership that didn't work and being like, okay, like that's not me, that's not how I lead.
Mm-hmm.
How do I learn from this? So I really my confidence and my leadership really comes from years of failure and trying again and then that not working and then trying something new, adjusting this, maybe this will work, and then kind of molding myself into the leader that I want to be. So
Yeah,
it's failure for sure.
I'm not sure if this is from Mel Robbins, but she said something like confidence is just the willingness to keep trying. Just
Yeah,
try.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
As
just try because there is no hurt in trying. Like you won't know unless you try.
Exactly. How do you deal with setbacks? Because you said, you've had a lot of failures and all of that. What does Joaquin tell himself? How do you deal with that?
With setbacks, I mentally tell myself like, okay, well, I don't get angry. I don't get angry at myself. I don't get angry in the situation that I'm in. I take a step back and I assess. Um, if let's say a dish isn't working, it's just not working, and I tried a million times on, okay, let me change this, and nothing just works. It's setting me back from putting it on a menu or wanting to, or doing something with it. I take a step back and I'm like, okay, let me see where I started, like from level one, and then what level am I at right now, and then where do I feel like in the middle did it get messed up, or where can I tweak and adjust? So dealing with setbacks for me is it's taking a step back, reassessing the situation that I'm in, taking a second to like breathe, calm down, drink some water, and then attack it. That whole system might be 5 minutes. That might take a day. That might take a week. That might take a month. So it's knowing also that whatever challenge that you're working on isn't going to be fixed right away. So whatever's setting you back isn't going to be fixed overnight. So it's also understanding that all of this will all come with time also.
You sound very rational and very logical, Joaquin. Do you ever get emotional with these things?
Yeah, I do, especially if it's like, I'm very connected to whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is I'm working on. Um, I mean, in a kitchen sense, emotion, like being emotional it's important because food for me is a very emotional thing because I feel like it's a representation of yourself and an extension
Mm-hmm.
of yourself, but it's also knowing like when to kind of put your head down and work and then stepping up and being a leader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like it's kind of you have to kind of assess the situation that you're in.
Right. What's your message to young Filipinos out there, especially the young ones who actually have dreams and ambitions and, how can they embrace who they are and at the same time show up with boldness like you did or like
Yeah.
you are doing?
Yeah. I think my biggest advice is to one, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like failure, especially in cooking, it's going to happen. I'm gonna fail tomorrow. I'm gonna fail the next day. I'm gonna fail the next day. But it's about how you get back up and continue pushing forward. Um, and to honestly just it's be yourself. Like be yourself in your workspace, in your kitchen. Like don't try to hide who you are. Um, and that it's going to take time. Like working in a kitchen and working in food in general, like it all takes time. You don't become a prep cook one day and the next day you're the executive chef. Like it's going to take years and years. Like I'm still on the journey now. Like I'm still very much in that progression of the kitchen and working my way up. Like I'm not done. Like my job's not finished. I'm still very up and coming, next generational, if you could
Mm-hmm.
say. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um it's the food that you put out and the food you cook, you have to remember is an extension of yourself. So you need to remember that if you're going to cook food for somebody that, that's going to be their impression of you. So like leave a good impression for the person that you're cooking for, the person you're talking to. Yeah, and just be yourself.
I love that. What's next for you? You've got your entire future ahead of you. Where are we going to see you next? Is the Philippines going to have a taste of Joaquin Cariaso? I mean, what's happening in the future? What's the dream?
I'm still gonna be at Manhattan, for the indefinite future. I very much love the restaurant. The food that we do there is very fun. It's exciting. We get to have a lot of fun and be creative with what we're doing. Still gonna be in New York, also for the indefinite future. Um, but I would definitely love to come home to the Philippines, you know, run I knuckle for a few days,
Mm-hmm.
with some skewers. And then I just saw Michelin just went to the Philippines for the first
Mm-hmm.
time.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah.
so I would, in the near future, love to go out to the restaurants over there, work with the chefs, kind of pick their brain as to, what they're doing in the Philippines. Like, I'm very much out of touch with the food scene in the Philippines right at this moment. So being able to see like there's a two Michelin star restaurant in the Philippines and all these one stars and all these restaurants being recognized by Michelin, like it would be really cool to.
Exciting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's exciting and it's going to really uplift Filipino food. Um, but I think for me, it's still what's next for me is s- keep putting my head down, cook, create, lead, have fun, cooking and being in New York City. Um, and then we'll see what comes out of all of this.
Yeah. Keep going. Rooting for you. And for my last
Thank you.
question,
Yeah,
if you were an ulam, what kind of ulam would you be?
sinigang.
Why sinigang?
It's well, okay. One, it's my favorite, but sinigang is good in any weather, hot, cold, like in if it's hot, if it's cold. Um, I'm a person who loves acid. Like I love my
Yeah.
sinigang super maasim. Like I need it super sour.
Me too.
Um,
Yeah.
so like, and it's like my comfort meal. Like I live in New York City. My parents still live in Jersey, and every time I go home to Jersey, my mom always has sinigang ready for me when I get home when she knows I'm coming home because she knows it's my favorite. So it's if I had to be an ulam, it'd be sinigang for sure,
Ho-
100%.
Hopefully, we'll taste your sinigang one day and maybe more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Joaquin. So inspiring. We're rooting for you. Please keep going and keep us posted on what's new in your world. Yeah.
Will do. Thank you, Lillian.
All the best, and we will protest next gen chef. I'm really sore about you not being in the finals.
That's all right.
Super. Take care, Joaquin. All
Bye
right.
bye.
Thanks. Bye.